retain video lottery terminals. As a result of that vote, bylaw 244 was passed by council of the day to remove VLTs from the community. Section 240 of the MGA states that if a bylaw has been passed by a vote of electors, it may be repealed by council if 10 years has passed from the date that bylaw was passed. So bylaw 244 was passed in 1998. A motion was presented to council on May 25th, and that motion was voted on was passed June 14th for administration to bring a bylaw to repeal the VLTs back to council to deliberate. Section 2. On July 12th, council gave first reading of bylaw 490, which repeals bylaw 244, and also requested that a public hearing be held to consider public opinion by those affected was passed. To date, there have been 4 letters received in regards to the VLTs in the city of Lacombe. 3 of them are against the repeal motion on 244 and June 14th to repeal or to repeal back to council. This evening, administration is asked on July 12th to deliberate the first reading of bylaw 490, which repealed bylaw 242, requested to remove the video lottery terminal to consider public opinion by those affected.
Thank you, Director Piche. Appreciate that.
To date, there have been 4 letters received in regards to the VLTs.
Order was stated earlier. I would now ask that anyone is in favor of bylaw 490. Now is your time to come forward and speak.
This evening, administration is asked on July 12th to deliberate the first reading of bylaw 490.
And I would just remind our speakers to state their name for the record prior to starting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Piche. Appreciate that. Order was stated earlier.
You asked me for so many years, I think it was
Is in favor of bylaw 490.
This evening, administration
if you ask me in the past about this, don't say it was a good thing for our voters. We are collecting money for the government. So, I mean, why we lost the VLT really was something that no one of us agreed, because everybody else in the surrounding area heard, you know, and they create business, they create some revenue, but as I told you again, there's people that they play them for fun. Some people, they play them to try to make a living out of it. And there's mixed feelings about the VLTs in Lacombe, but we have been for a year. Another thing is the people that they stay at the hotels overnight, they come to the restaurant, they come in the lounge, and they ask for the VLTs. They want to pass some time, and some of them they driving around the surrounding area for the night to go by. So it's up to you to decide, you know. I know it's not an easy thing, but decide I guess will not go for the VLTs. You will help in business somehow. We had a tough couple of years, as you know, with the COVID-19, and we'll see in the long run what will happen. Thank you for taking the time and discussing this and putting this to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelo. Before you leave, just for the record, if I could just have you state your name. I know there will be no one in this room that does not know you, but for the benefit of those watching at home, if I could ask again, please state your name.
Sorry, say that.
State your name for the record.
For your name, Saganes.
Thank you, sir.
ENGLS. Your last name Saganes. SLGANS. So great to you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that chooses to speak in favor of bylaw 490? Thank you.
Hi, for those that don't know me, I'm Natalie Reitland, representing Boston. And I am speaking on behalf to say that we are for bringing the VLTs back. As echoed with Leo's, it is another form of revenue for the restaurants, as well as to give the guests that we have in the store some sort of entertainment. The one thing that I believe has changed since 1998 versus now is the fact that BLTs were the only source back then, but now with the ability to do online gambling, and the ability to gamble really anywhere at any time on any avenue, should be taken into consideration. Part of it is the social side of it. Lots of people come out to be social. Those with addictions, although we do sympathize with them, are often seen kind of hiding in basements or dark rooms, and that type of thing. So we are looking at kind of a social avenue to the BLTs and giving people the ability to come out kind of recreationally. We do see it at the Boston Pizza in Pinoca that they have quite a community that they come out to. Most people, 99% of them, have an entertainment budget that they stick with. All of our team with BLTs are trained, and we do have what we call wheel facts through AGLC that basically points out and notifies us of kind of problem gambling and how to interact with it. So I do really think that from 1998 until 2021, there have been significant changes. And we do ask that the councillors take that into consideration when they vote. And we would absolutely love to have that in the beginning. That's all for me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of bylaw 490? And just to confirm, we have no one else out waiting area or anything. Okay, very good. And no one online either, waiting. Very good. Then I will ask anyone that chooses to speak in opposition of bylaw 490 to speak. Do we have anyone here wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I will move on to ask for any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard at this time. Now is your opportunity to speak. Is there anyone here? And I see no one coming forward. I think that our directors was just going to make sure that there was no one perhaps lost in the building or whatever that was looking for the public hearing. So we will take a few moments to ensure that that is the case. So while we're waiting for our other, let's put to council if there's any questions for any of the presenters here today that you would care to ask. Nope. Good. In a few moments, so hopefully there is no one else waiting to speak. That would be unfortunate if there are, but it is 5:55, and I declare that the public hearing for bylaw 490 now closed. And on the heels of our public hearing, we move into our request for decisions at this time. Thankfully, Director Thompson is by himself. It makes me feel better. Let's move to item 5.1.
Point of order, Mayor Council,
Yes.
or Mayor Tracy, sorry, we haven't actually called the meeting to order yet, our regular meeting, but we've not set an agenda or any of that, so we should do that first, please.
Thank you very much for that substantial oversight. The only excuse I can offer is a truthful one, which is it's unusual for us to have 3 input sessions that took up substantially more time than I forgot. I completely overlooked them. Thank you for reminding me. I appreciate that. So I think that does not negate a public hearing,
No.
but let's go ahead and take care of those items of order. And although I did call to order the public hearing portion, let's as I said, it's now 5:56, so I call this meeting to order. And do we have any questions or concerns with regards to the agenda? Councilor Gullikson.
I'll move the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Any input? All those in favor? Thank you very much. So I think we can proceed now.
Thank
My
you very
apologies for the lapse in order. Director Piche, bylaw 490, the repeal of bylaw 244. Please.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. So this evening before council is bylaw 490. It's the repeal of bylaw 244. The first reading of the bylaw 490 was given on July 12th. And at this time, administration is presenting second reading to allow debate and possible third reading if council so chooses to move forward. As mentioned earlier, that bylaw 490 does remove that ban on BLTs and will allow businesses to apply to include them within their organizations. If there's any questions at this time, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, Director Piche. Council. Councilor Gullikson.
Well, I'm Mayor Creasy. I'll move that council give second reading to bylaw 490.
Thank you. Councilor Hoekstra.
Thanks for increasing. I guess it would have come out of the public hearing, but I was curious, so no one emailed anything over the weekend to the VLT@lacombe.ca?
Just the letter from Leos. That was the only one.
So I know it's a small thing, but the letter did not originate from a business. It originated from an individual.
Sorry.
So, and that was from Mr. George Gas, correct?
It's
Very good.
The 3 letters included in the public hearing.
Yes,
There's 3 letters in them that are in the agenda.
I don't think that was under dispute. No, it's fine. Councilor Hoekstra, certainly.
Thanks for Casey. I was at the farmer's market on Friday and had an opportunity to talk to a lot of people. And only one person expressed being in favor of repealing this bylaw just on a philosophical basis that, control other things. So why are we controlling that? Most people just said, no, how does that improve the quality of life in Lacombe by bringing BLTs back? People have moved to our community because of its atmosphere. It's just the way that the quaint nature of our city. I am against repealing that bylaw because I think in 5 years, when we look back at this time, I don't believe we'll say to ourselves that this was a good move for our city. We've made it this far for this many years with competition right down the road. None of that's changed. I would highly disagree with repealing this one.
You? Who else? Councilor Kodak.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. So of course, I got forth on the motion to get us down this road. A lot of the comments that I'll make all heard before when we did the first reading, but I'll make them again. So I too was at the farmers markets for the first time, first farmers market where we had the sandwich board up. And so the general feedback that I got was two things. I had one person that was opposed, but the vast majority that I spoke to, their opinion was basically one of ambivalence. They didn't care either way. It didn't affect them. They weren't going to play them. And they didn't see any sort of detriment to having them. They all also agreed in the same vein that we should absolutely be supporting our local business community. It's silly that others are leaving our community to spend money when they should be staying in here. And that's one of the main drivers I have behind this, is that as a former small business owner, I did everything I could to increase my bottom line. Operating a small business, whether it's a restaurant or a retail or whatever the case would be, I know for me, it was the single hardest job I've ever had. It was undoubtedly the most difficult thing I've ever done, because you never knew from one day to the next what your revenue was going to be. And so the the VLT in these instances for these local businesses that wish to pursue that will give them some stability, knowing that they will get some extra revenue from them. As to the notion, you know, and I did get some emails to me personally. I think I got 4 that were opposed, and the same thing came up in all these emails. That somehow the quality of life in Lacombe was going to turn the other way, and I really struggle with that. That somehow, you know, that we're going to see organized crime, we're going to see influx of individual shady characters, and I just can't. If that were true, then why have all these other communities not gone down into the gates of hell? Like, I really struggle with that part of it. The addiction piece I will not dispute. I get that it could come to pass that 4 people could go into Boston Pizza or Lido's and one of them will say, well, looky here, they have VLTs now. I've never played them before. And that individual may try, and a year from now, he'll have lost his house, his home, his job as a result. I'm not disputing that. That could happen. But the point was made here by one of our speakers, a very valid point, that I could right now go onto my phone and play an online gambling site and become addicted. And we're not in a position to ban the internet. That's not going to happen. So the online gambling and addiction that comes is real. But I think in the 20 plus years since the plebiscite was put in, there are much more supports for that. And the very fact that you can get addicted to gambling on your phone, you know, the notion that somehow we are this safe haven, this secluded community, that there's no gambling addiction is a farce. I mean, people will become addicted to gambling whether there's a VLT there or not, simply by way of their phone. So I know it's real and that could happen, but to not have VLT simply because we're worried about becoming addicted to gambling, I think is a bit of a stretch for me, just given the fact you can get addicted to gambling on the phone. So at the end of the day, again, I remain rock solid behind this. I think it only serves to strengthen our business community and this community. For those that want to play VLTs, they no longer have to leave, they can stay here. And for that, I will continue to support this.
Councillor, what else? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Without a doubt, the worst case scenario is if the household economics affects the family to the point of addiction that affects the family, the marriage, youth. But I still support rescinding this because I feel that our businesses should be an equal opportunity playing field. If it's my choice, what I do with my entertainment, it's not gambling, but if it's some other individual, they may go into, hopefully to our restaurants and our lounges, that they're just not playing the VLTs, may go in and have a great meal and just want to pass on, stay there longer. It's another form of entertainment. That's their choice. And I don't feel that, we're on council for the passion of the betterment of our community, to see our community grow and improve and look back. But to control what everybody else has, what everybody else does, I think that adults should make their own good decisions for themselves. And I don't think there's a line in the sand where it's not a councillor's position to be making that decision, their own adult decisions. It's devastating to see if it affects families. Absolutely, we all feel that. But I think our local businesses just want to keep our traffic from going elsewhere. Just like our whole path that we've made an effort to create more corporate business. That's right from the start of council. We want our traffic to stay within our own community and support our current businesses. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
You? Councillor Rushton.
Thanks, Mayor Christie. Sorry that I didn't say all my thoughts, but when I heard Councillor Connick speak, I appreciate your support of business. I appreciated that businesses would benefit from this, but this notice of motion came before us in May. It has been out in the public for quite a while. Up until tonight, I had not heard from a business. And I guess I struggle with us bringing forward such a significant change that is supposed to benefit businesses, but yet businesses never ever talk to us. And so if this was a real need in terms of bottom line, I would have liked to have heard from some businesses. I'll be very frank about that. Because when I talk to the citizen who doesn't want it here, I guess I want to listen to them a little bit more strongly because I heard from a lot of them. And I do agree, Councillor Connick, that there was indifference. I probably should have been a bit more honest about that. But if I was a business and I was trying to improve my bottom line, I would have been more proactive in terms of saying, this is really, really important for me. But to hear it at the end now, I guess I just don't see it as carrying as much weight as hearing from a lot of citizens that say it will affect my life, my family life. Yes, adults need to make their own decisions, but I will not be part of opening that door for people who would rather that it wasn't here.
Thank you, Councilor Hoekstra. So we're basing all our decisions. In fact, I think it's unfair to suggest that we have not heard from businesses on this particular issue, because I have for several years now. We have discussed it in council. So to suggest that this was somehow a last minute attempt by two businesses that haven't presented, I don't think it's particularly fair. And I'm not trying to wait for anyone or other. I just would prefer that we keep our on today's thing. Councillor Goldson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'm sure Councillor Hoekstra didn't hear from business. That's what he said. I did. I heard from businesses regarding this, and also at farmers market, I heard very similar things to Councillor Connick's, where it was really a mixed bag. A few that were against it were talked about addictions, and through discussion found out a few of them had issues with online gambling, not VLTs. And I think part of that, it might be the fact that the businesses try to help them deal with the addiction issues through their training. Now, I don't know how effective that is. I was very happy to hear that tonight, that you do have training and you do look for that. I think that is important, but I'm not sure that us bringing back VLTs will affect anybody's addiction. Because if they're addicted to gambling, it's everywhere. The other day I watched an older woman, sorry for me to say that at my age, but anyway, she was older than me and probably on a fixed income, I would suspect, who knows, put $200 down on lottery tickets. I mean, gambling is everywhere, and I don't believe this will affect anybody as far as addictions go. So I would be in favor of this motion.
You, Councillor Jacobson.
I'm sure you're all wondering where I come on this issue. Yeah, I haven't heard from Kimmy. I heard obviously the emails that you all got. I'd like to kind of maybe bring something to all of your attention, though, a little bit outside of this, that it's kind of crossed my mind quite a bit, especially some of these issues have unfolded over the last few months. We don't have access to like citywide polling on issues. We don't have those resources, you know. So I think it's sometimes not always correct to go with the 15 most passionate people you hear about any particular issue, because that could represent literally like 1% of the population. I think for some of these global issues, you have to genuinely imagine that the vast majority of people understand that they don't care to even show up to talk about this, let alone email in or talk to their counselor about it. What do most people want? They just want to be left alone to live their life and be able to do those things to the best of their ability. And almost all of them aren't going to bother going down to play VLT or have a beer in the park or whatever the issue is going to be. But if they did, they probably want to have the opportunity to do it, right? So I would, again, we're all coming in by terms here, so we're kind of, you know, we're all wise at the end now. But I would encourage all of you in your role as counselors to maybe sometimes step outside of the tempting action of listening to people who are really passionate about it and take that as perspective, but also think outside that as well too. Obviously my libertarian views are well known. alcohol is the single most devastating addictive substance that we have on the world. We don't prohibit that in the city, and we actively promote it with blind and ruling and all that. So I would find it incredibly philosophically disingenuous to prohibit gambling, especially when it's everywhere else. Yeah. So and frankly, I just find it more or less offensive that we're not allowed to do things that we can do anywhere else. So I will definitely support this bylaw.
Good. Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Might as well add my 2 cents. So my initial issue with this was actually the ability to have public input, just because of the very way that this came into being. I wanted to make sure that we also had a fairly robust system as to how it might go out. And I feel like, while not perfect, that we have definitely gone over and above what we would normally do in situations for the average bylaw to get that feedback. And I was, I guess, somewhat surprised at the feedback that I got when I was at things like farmers markets or simply just being out on the street. I was contacted by businesses probably after the fact. When we first had this brought forward as a notice of motion, I had made the comment that, you know, funny, I never heard a business complain about this before. Well, I heard about it after the fact. So, you know, I do agree that, again, that libertarian streak, that I don't want to be the morality police, certainly not at local government. I don't really like it when government does it as a whole, but I certainly don't want to do that, you know, at local government. You know, if you want to argue that there should be an equality of vices out there, we already let, you know, alcohol, you know, sale of cannabis, you know, it just seems like, why is this different? Again, very good points that were brought up both by speakers here tonight, as well as just conversation. Yeah, the world has changed since BLTs were excluded from our property. The online gambling has just revolutionized that, and it's not the same, you know, thing that it was. And I think that it's really important, and I think this council has done it over and over again, to say that we are business friendly. And here's another way that we can show that we're business friendly, as in we don't want to hamstring our business. And for what purpose? Again, I'm not good with being morality police. I don't want that. I don't want that role. Adults should have the ability to make adult choices. There are you know, measures in place, the training, et cetera, that exists. Is it perfect? No, it isn't, but it isn't for anything else. And the expectation that it would be, that government would be able to swoop in and protect you from all the ills of the world is, you know, it's just not realistic. So I will be voting in favor of this. And I just wanted to share those thoughts, but I just thank you for allowing this to have a bit more of a robust outroll as we see perhaps in the average, just because I wanted people to have that ability to have that input. They've had that now, and so we are now prepared to make that vote.
Thank you. So like many of you, had the opportunity to take input from public on several different occasions. However, only one time at the farmers market. And like so here, the input was varied. But frankly, the vast majority were could care less which way this will win. I just find it unusual for a body such as this to be opposed to helping businesses succeed on their own by enabling them to have an opportunity to add this to their business portfolio if they want to. Has no cost to the community itself, or the municipality rather. So I just can't, myself, I just can't imagine not voting in favor of this. I was troubled with the way that it went out over a decade ago, and I felt it to be sure it was legal, but I don't know if it was fair. In any event, I too am not interested in being the morality police, and want our businesses to be able to operate in an environment as fair and equitable as possible with their other communities. Therefore, I wholeheartedly support giving our business community the option of including these in their business, should they choose to do so, in an effort for them to be better suited to help themselves. Anyone else? Councillor Cock?
So just to post this to NCO Gaudy, it would appear that, likelihood this will pass. He's saying here that you will inform AGLC of the change to the bylaw. How quickly will that happen? So is it a letter that'll go out tomorrow, this week, so that those that want to go down this road can then pursue this?
Yes, we can get the letter out. It will take some time. Businesses can't access it. Minister responsible needs to notify AGLC of the change and direct them to begin taking applications. Businesses will need to make the application.
Okay, no, I'm just curious.
I appreciate you asking the question. However, let's keep in mind that we do have another level of government involved in this, and the timing will largely depend on them. And in fact, we were being a little presumptuous before we even passed the second reading, but I appreciate you asking the question. Did I see a hand up? Councillor Hoekstra?
Thanks for Creasy. I just had it, but I don't want to be presumptuous either, but may I ask a question about process?
Certainly.
I understood that a business cannot have children in it for the year previous to them bringing the LTs in. Is that correct as well? So that if this happened overnight, if they had children in their facility in the previous 12 months, they cannot apply to have a VLT. So it is a long process yet before they can come into some businesses.
Certain about that particular point, and I don't know that we have.
I have to admit, I'm not 100% certain either, but I do know that there is some application